Welcome to this week's episode of Eco Talk Rewired. Today we're talking battery safety and battery safety in people's homes specifically. We have a brand new guideline that's come out, which is the PAS 63100-2024. It's called Electrical Installations Protection Against Fire of Battery Energy Storage Systems for Use in Dwellings and Specifications. So this is a really important document, isn't it, Neil?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, this is something we've spoken about on many a podcast, haven't we?
Yeah.
Fire safety with batteries. So to get this, it's a bit of a welcome sight, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we've what this the contents of this sort of recommendation. We've been kind of adhering to this and leaning on this since the day we started, because common sense to us was a lithium. Well, the document, as you know, it says that batteries and battery storage systems shouldn't be installed in enclosed spaces, enclosed loft spaces, and things like that, where we could potentially risk of human life, blocking exits and stuff like that. We must have installed probably 95% plus of our battery storage that we've installed, which is a lot of batteries.
A lot of batteries, yeah.
Outside, or in garage spaces. Yeah. Or worst case, in some sort of utility space, which falls directly into the regulations that they're stipulating. So there's a recommendation document here that falls exactly in line with everything that we've been saying, thinking and doing for the last, since 2016, when batteries kind of really started kicking off with the Tesla Powerwall 1. And it's refreshing to see it, because this safety element, it seems to be becoming a bit of an issue, doesn't it? It's not just batteries. We've got the solar fire and the arcing stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's so necessary, because there's such a volume of technology getting installed. The regulations have got to tighten up, because at the minute it seems that they've been allowed to get a little bit slack.
It's an awful lot's happened in this industry in the last couple of years, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you look how quickly at the moment, DC safety, fire safety from a panel situation is becoming, and it's almost weekly we're seeing an article in the news about a solar fire.
Yeah, 100%.
It's becoming literally almost weekly.
From weak connections or sloppy connections or simple stuff really that could cause a big issue.
And then obviously a big we had one up in North Wales, didn't we? I'm sure we've covered it in the previous podcast. Yeah. Is that there was a cheap Chinese battery that went on fire in someone's loft, and that was an elderly person, and that could have been another story. That luckily it was caught early, but they didn't have a smoke alarm in the loft.
No.
And I'm guessing it was installed under some sort of social landlord type approach.
Yeah,
and I know some of the lads who work here. They've worked for previous contractors locally, and they've one of the lads have told me before, they fitted hundreds of batteries in lofts.
Yeah. In
the area where the fire was, but the problem is you just can't see what's going on, and it just worries me that there's the conscience on a lot of these installers not actually questioning. Actually, this isn't right. We shouldn't be doing this.
Exactly.
They're just taking the money and just cracking on.
Exactly. Instead of trying to do it right. Yeah. The thing is, right, common sense. Okay, so you've got a battery in the loft, and there's a smoke alarm in the loft, and the smoke alarm goes off. It's probably already too late, right?
Yeah.
That if the battery has happened to catch fire, not that the batteries are particularly a fire hazard. It's more usually outside influence that causes a problem. Yeah. But if a battery's smoking, then you've got a problem anyway, because that stuff's not going out.
Well, we as a company don't like fitting them in lofts.
No, we don't.
It's a very, very. I think I could probably count on one hand the number of times we've had to go on a loft because there is nowhere else. But when we have done that, we will fit a hardwired smoke alarm.
Yes.
Because it's the only option.
It's the only thing you can do.
It's the only thing we can do. But like I said, out of the recent hundreds of recent installations, like I said, it's probably 2 or 3. We've actually gone on a loft. It's a very, very small percentage.
Yeah. That's because the customer literally wants the battery. There's nowhere else to put it, and they've chosen for us to put it in the loft, right?
Well, not a battery. We're talking inverters now.
Oh, inverters.
Yeah,
God, right. Okay.
Yeah, we've done
batteries in the loft.
We've got nothing in the loft. No. As far as I'm aware, we've got 0 batteries in the loft.
Yeah. Okay.
It's we've got, like I said, 2 or 3 inverters of recent installations.
Inverters.
Batteries. And we put a smoke alarm in for them as well as extra belt and braces. But it's a complicated. I mean, I was saying to you before about LinkedIn. So, what's really interesting, I'm going to read a post from Give Energy.
Yeah. Major supplier in the UK market.
Yeah. So they're commenting back to this document, this PAS 63100 2024. So I'll read out word for word what's on the Give Energy LinkedIn page, because it's quite interesting their take on this whole battery aspect. So it says, industry update. The BSI has issued new recommendations on home battery installations. And of most interest to our installers and customers, this new PAS advises that batteries should not be installed in lofts and voids and such as understairs areas.
Yeah.
First, it's important to clarify several key points. The new PAS is not regulation. It's best practice specification. A PAS, which is a publicly available specification, is a fast-track standardisation document. It defines good practice standards for a product, service or process. Secondly, it's worth noting that the document will likely be subject to amendments from feedback from the industry, for example, over time. For example, the document may not take into account newer, safer battery technology, which is a fair comment. The document may not reflect fire ratings or mounting options of products. That might not have been taken into consideration as well. As the largest residential energy storage system provider in the UK, it is somewhat disappointing that we did not consult on this. However, we are already in contact with BSI to address certain points. Thirdly, let's talk about Give Energy's batteries specifically. Give Energy batteries do not contain cobalt. We use premium live PO4 cell technology with minimal risk of thermal runaway. From a safety perspective, our batteries are perfectly fine for a variety of siting options, and many of our customers opt to utilise this flexibility, which we don't like. And lastly, point 4, let's talk about regulations. This is quite an important one. As per the official regulations, as long as you have considerations such as a smoke alarm, adequate lighting and an accessible entrance, then you can install batteries in a loft. And that's in section 11, table 11.1 of the IEC Code of Practice for Electrical Energy Storage Systems, 2nd edition, where you can get the full details. Regulations take precedence over recommendations, which the PAS document is.
Fair enough.
So away from the PAS, this is, again, Give Energy's comments. In terms of safety, you can absolutely install a Give Energy live PO4 batteries in lofts where appropriate siting, lifting, access and regulations are considered, and historic installations are not affected. However, this kind of installation would not follow the current PAS best practice, and that, if left unamended, home builders and the like will likely adopt this standard of new installations. So it may be worth considering alternate locations to site home batteries for new projects moving forward. So, what do you think of
that? I think they have a point in so much the sort of quality of the technology they use, and that's fair enough. I take that on board. But when you read this, and I mean, we actually categorically and wholeheartedly agree with the kind of map out in this document, because that's the way we've always operated, and for these reasons. So the 3 key points of batteries are separated from habitable rooms and means of escape for inhabitants by suitable fire compartmentation. Fire detection is provided for the battery location interlinked to a fire alarm system to warn inhabitants of a detected fire, and means of escape for inhabitants are not inhibited. So while the battery fires at the time of writing are low frequency, we have a high impact due to their behaviour in fire, since some batteries can exhibit focused jet-like flaming. A higher degree of compartmentation should be considered should be considered. Fire compartmentation requirements might need to be assessed in future editions of this standard, as there are currently gaps in the knowledge of how fire compartmentation resists lithium battery fires. And obviously, lithium battery fires are quite intense issues. We've seen what happens with the cars when they go up. If you've got it doesn't take away from the fact that there's a lot of poor quality kits get installed in this country. There's a lot of poor quality. The lower end of the market, certainly the lower end of the market, technology tends to get thrown in the loft by another installer. whoever they might be, the ones who are in this for the quick buck. So your installation quality is low. Where the location, they don't care. They're not going to be in business in 2 years to worry about the aftermath anyway. So Give Energy, I take Give Energy standpoint because Give Energy are a large residential installed a largely installed residential product. Yes, they are using batteries with the PO4 cells and the decent quality. They haven't got the cobalt in them and stuff. I don't think that completely negates the matter, to be fair.
No, I don't as well. I think, I think Give Energy obviously just played it safe there. They don't upset the apple cart because a lot of their installers do fit in the loft.
They do, yeah.
And
we fit Give Energy, but we don't put them in lofts.
No, at all.
They tend to be outside with a rain cover.
Yeah,
Most batteries, we live in a fairly temperate climate, so we tend to fall within the sort of pluses and minuses of operational capacity anyway. The Give Energy is an IP65 product. We can put a rain cover over it. It's okay. Tesla's internal thermal regulation, Solar Edge internal thermal regulations, all this stuff is fine. But it's also the wife factor, isn't it? Because while the battery isn't necessarily a fire hazard, it's if there's a fire in that property and it gets to the battery, that's when the battery becomes a real problem. So this is why we lean to external areas of a property. A garage, it's separate. Outside it's separate. There's a wall between it and whatever might be going on inside. So it gives the fire brigade a chance to do something about it, because once the fire's got to that battery, it's going to cause a problem. And if you've got jet type flame issues happening in the loft space, well, that's going to rip a house down in no time. Yeah. So and who knows what sort of damage that can do. Yeah, it's in the loft. So if you're in a utility space, that can be compartmentalized because you can shut doors. Yeah. If it's in a loft, that's all encompassing across the whole property, and then the fire's going to come down. So there's no compartmentation there. It's for me that this is a breath of fresh air, because we've been talking about this.
It really is. I mean, and I hope house builders and the like actually take it on board and do start designing into their properties, that things like that don't go in a loft. An almost external battery
area, if need be. If not outside, the battery can go outside. Stick them outside. What's the deal? The solar panels are outside.
It's caused a little bit of a controversy actually on LinkedIn. If there's a couple of industry colleagues who there's a gentleman called Luke who's says what's Luke's surname? It's Luke Gonzalez. He's a solar PV and battery fire safety consultant. So he's been really prevalent with championing sort of good practice from a fire point of view. To be fair, when we're doing the M&S job recently, and if anyone hasn't seen, check out some of the videos. But he pulled us on a couple of things. And then we actually shot a video the following day showing some of the things to show we were doing it, because it looked like we weren't doing it. We were doing it, but and he was talking about keeping the MC4s off the roof, which we were tying them up. So, but he's been very prevalent, and he's been quite going in deep with Give Energy on that post, to be honest. And Graham Kenyon, who was actually one of the people listed in the who's been involved in making that document, made some comments. So if anyone is on LinkedIn listening, watching this podcast, if you go over to Give Energy's page on LinkedIn, you'll see some of the comments from this specific post that they did. So the post was on 1 day ago. So so that would have been the 4th. Yeah. If anyone's watching this in the future, so that's the 4th of April. But it's interesting to see some of the comments, because I don't want to just read from my phone the entire podcast, but there's some very, very good comments that have been made. And like I said, Graham Kenyon, who actually is one of the people responsible for making the document, there is a list at the front that lists out all the people who have been involved in creating this document. Graham Kenyon's one of the consultants who's actually listed in it. So it's worth having a look if you've got 5 minutes and listening to some of the feedback from certain people in the industry.
There's quite a lot of people.
There is, Tesla on the list.
Consultant, that's a hell of a list.
Yeah.
We've got Association for Renewable Energy and Clean Technology, REA, British Electrotechnical and Allied Manufacturers Association, BEAMA, Certify Schemes Search Shore LLP, Consumer Public Interest Network, Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, Electrical Contractors Association, Electrical Safety First, G Kenyon Technology, that's the chap you mentioned, Institution of Engineering and Technology, Loughborough University, Microgeneration Certification Systems, National Association of Professional Inspectors and Testers, NAPIT, National Fire Chiefs Council, Newcastle University, Office for Product Safety and Standards, PowerVault and Tesla. That's a pretty solid list of
Absolutely.
Consultants, to be fair, to come up with a, it's an addition to what, but I think it needs to be set in stone as fast as physically possible, because I truly believe that, and it's across quite a number of technologies, that the rate that it's being installed by people who are fresh to the industry, and the regulations are changing, regulations aren't getting met, and there is issues and safety issues to take into consideration at every turn. And I think we're going to see in the next sort of 12 to 18, maybe 2 years, some issues and some ugly stuff coming out in the media, because technology has just been thrown into people's homes, and regulations have just been,
I think at some point we're going to see in the not too distant future, the first house burning down.
Yeah.
Potentially people being killed because batteries in the loft.
Yeah, and potentially poorly installed.
Yeah,
with low-grade technology.
Which is a horrendous thing to say, and I sincerely hope it never does happen. But the likelihood of it happening is pretty high.
If that battery's in that loft, say for example, for whatever reason, there's a number of contributory factors here, but elderly or whatever, the smoke alarm's gone off, they don't hear it. It's all good having a smoke alarm as long as you can hear it. So you're in the loft there. I mean, obviously it's going to go on for the house. I don't know circumstances, but if you've got a battery fire in the loft, that battery's going to go up pretty quickly. If it's in a loft of a house, it's going to rip through the house pretty quickly. And if that's a terrace street, it's going to rip through the old terrace street before the actual ramifications are huge and scary. And I think I just truly believe that batteries shouldn't be anywhere near a loft. I don't even like an inverter in a loft. No, it doesn't do well for operational, does it? No. We know that. We saw that in that scenario where an inverter got too hot and a customer was wondering why their 100 kilowatt array wasn't performing. It was outputting about 40 kilowatts. Lo and behold, it was in a little black shed in the middle of a field, getting beaten down by sunshine. When we opened the doors, the heat hit us in the face, and 10 minutes later, the inverter started working properly.
It was an inverter sauna.
It was an inverter sauna, Self-generated heat. So, that's the heat the inverter gives off, isn't it? So just to put that in perspective, you don't realise sometimes there's a lot of energy going into these things. Solar panels, you don't actually realise how much power they output. It's a lot.
It's like when we started this podcast, the fire safety, I think, is only going to get so much bigger in this industry.
Yeah.
I think we're just at the infancy of it all.
Brilliant though, because we need regulations are brilliant. Changing. Yeah, it does need changing. It needs addressing. This industry's been. It's too easy for people to just jump in and become a solar installer or a battery installer. We've been in this game 15 years. We know what we're doing, and we're ahead of this. We've been saying this since 2000.
We've been practicing this for years.
100%. Yeah,
and we champion Solar Edge.
Yeah, safety.
Tell us what happens in America. From products. What products you can only install in America?
It's only Solar Edge and Enphase, so that you've got micro inversion and optimization per panel, which gives you safety in the event of an issue, and the panels can be reduced to 1 volt DC. So you've got a reasonably safe level of DC that you could probably risk touching. You might get a bit of a jolt, but you'd survive, as opposed to a full 460 odd volts DC that you'd normally have with a string system. The insurances and the insurance companies won't insure the property if you don't install solar with the Solar Edge or the Enphase. They recognise that it's a serious hazard, and we've seen that, haven't we, on the little building when that big sort of central network warehouse went up the other day, and that was one big building with a huge fire down the middle of it.
I'm not sure if in America because obviously America's obviously it's obviously made up of states, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's a blanket across America or
certain states.
It
may be. I'm not sure.
Either way, the fact that I'm just conscious of not saying things that aren't 100% true. I haven't got the facts.
No, fair enough.
But you got to remember, a state in America is pretty big. It's potentially bigger than the UK.
Yeah.
So we're still talking big. It's a big decision for just even if it's just a state to make that decision,
or a number of states.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just think this country, we're a little bit behind on things at the moment when it comes to safety.
Yeah, especially when you've got solar arrays being installed in public areas, schools, universities, public buildings, and you've got an unsafe installation on the roof.
I've always see. I don't understand. You see how, social landlords, RSLs as they call them in the trade, how they can almost sleep at night knowing they fitted stuff that shouldn't have been in Mrs. Jones, who's 85, with really poor hearing and mobility, and they've helped reduce her energy bills, but actually potentially put a massive fire risk. Why wouldn't we've had meetings with RSLs before, haven't we?
Yeah,
and we've told them to fit Solar Edge.
Yeah,
but it's price, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always
they
price.
They won't do it.
Yeah. They just got to take a box.
But at some point, it's got to change. Well, we're going to have to put people's lives before price.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're talking about now.
Yeah, exactly.
These fires become more and more common, and at some point, we're going to have to start listening.
Yeah.
To people like ourselves who've been doing it a long time, and listening to people like Luke, a champion in fire safety, that we should be fitting this better tech from the outset and not the cheapest piece of kit. I know they've got budgets, they need to stretch it as much as they can, but we also need to think about safety in the end, and that's what I find really frustrating, when you try and educate these people.
It's true, but you know as well as I do, Gareth, that in this industry there's a huge difference in technology quality and build quality from the sort of bottom end of the market to the top end of the market. So you got your likes, your Solar Edge, your Tesla, and things that are up at that sort of upper echelons of sort of safety practice and the best practices, and everything that they think about is built with future and safety and proofing in mind. And then the other end of the scale, it's almost nothing.
Yeah.
With products that are highly likely to break, fail, go on fire, cause issues. Unfortunately, when you're cutting the costs and making the budget spread, it's the cheap products that get thrown into the loft spaces.
Yeah, it is.
And there's multiplying factor of risk. But then the insurance, Zurich are looking at this now.
Zurich seems to be leading the way on from an insurance point of view.
Yeah. So
I'll give you a bit. I've not told you this actually. So I had a handover meeting with Moston Estates this morning with the big project we just finished for them in Llandudno. Make sure you go and check out the videos. But I was talking them through again the benefits of Solar Edge.
Yeah.
And most of the conversation was led around fire safety.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to him what 90% of the time, 95% of the time, if there's a fire, what it's usually caused by, and it's obviously DC, MC4s. And it made actually John say to Mark, what do we ask our tenants for when they're looking at solar? What do we say to them? Have we got any of our own guidelines for them?
Yeah.
Because obviously what I was saying around fire safety was starting to trigger some thoughts here.
Yeah, liabilities.
And Mark was saying, actually at the moment we're just make sure the roof's structural. I said, well, maybe you should be saying to them, you need to be making sure they use Solar Edge because it's the safest. Because in the end, even if they're a tenant,
it's Moston's property.
Moston's they own it, exactly,
and it's their liability.
Exactly. So I think it's made, after our conversation today, it's made them think a little bit more about Solar Edge and the benefits of it. And this isn't a podcast, promoting Solar Edge. It's
Solar Edge just happens to be the best solution.
Yeah, it's
in this respect.
And and I think they really, I feel like today when I was talking through them next to all the electrical equipment about fire safety, because obviously we've got the firefighter gateway switch fitted on that job.
Yeah,
so I was showing them how that works and everything. And
well, that's brilliant, isn't it? So the fire brigade come in, there's a kill switch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think today it really sort of, because I have mentioned fire safety a few times to them.
Yeah.
And some recommendations with regards to maintenance and stuff like that. But I think today I feel like we turned a corner today, and they really understood, the benefits of what we've fitted, and whether they should be looking at this sort of stuff on for their tenants.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think we've made a little bit of a nice step forward today with them.
That's good.
And it's made them think, because I even went into detail with regards to If this was a string system, you'd have your inverters. I said each of these pairs of cables going into the system now, each one of them would have to have a switch.
Yeah.
Each switch is another failure point.
Yeah.
And those switches fail. We've seen them fail over years.
Yeah.
And they can be causes of fires. So with our system, we don't have them.
Yeah.
But with a string, you would have them. So, we're eliminating additional points of failure.
Multiple failure points.
Which can cause fires. And so it was a good turning point today, that. And obviously they're very happy with the job we've done. So they're very happy with everything. And so that's good. We like happy customers.
We do. And that was a nice big project as well.
It was. It was great. But it was, one of the what was really nice, I think, with those guys is just before we started, they'd spoken to the insurance company.
Yeah. And
it happens to be Zurich. And
okay.
Zurich sent over their current document on fire safety when it comes to PV. And we'd done everything that was on that list, that initial list anyway.
Yes.
And more, because as you know, we've started trying to work towards these latest guidelines from this white paper from Zurich on their next.
To be ahead of them.
To be ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And
same as we have been with this.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that just goes to show the type of company we are.
Yeah.
We're not the same as everyone else. We never profess. We feel we are leaders we're some of the leaders in this industry.
Yeah.
Because we are championing safety. We are making sure that best practice happens from the start.
We're conscientious,
and we're conscientious. We don't want to cause problems. We genuinely want to do a good job for people, and we want to do it right and safely. And
have something that someone can have installed on the roof. We can hang a rat on the fact that we know it's going to do well for the next 20 years.
Exactly.
Failure issues are likely to be fairly minimal. We don't live in a perfect world, but it's you try to install stuff and do it right so you don't cause problems. We don't want issues.
No, exactly. I think, but I think fire safety, is a big topic, and I think we're going to see more and more. I'm sure me and you are going to be sat across this table over the coming months talking more about fire safety.
Yes.
There's going to be, when we do our news updates, there's going to be more solar fires mentioned.
Yeah.
Which isn't great for the industry, but it just reinforces what we've been saying about fire safety for a long time now.
But how important it is to get it right.
Yeah.
Get the right installer, use the right technology, have it done properly. Don't cut corners. It's the cuts in corners where I guarantee that if you take the next 12 months out of maybe, 50 solar fires or 100 solar fires, it'll be the cut corner jobs that have caused the fires, won't it? I'd be very surprised if I'm wrong on that.
I'm just waiting for someone actually to do another Freedom of Information request.
Yeah.
Because I know we did a news story a year and a half ago now when we found out there was 10 solar fires a month across the UK.
Yeah.
I bet there's an awful lot more now.
Yeah.
Awful lot more.
Yeah. Where will we be in 12 and 18, 12,
exactly.
24 months when there's thousands and thousands and thousands more installations hammered in on low budget?
Yeah. Eco 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eco 4. Let's not talk about Eco 4. Let's not get too upset today. It's a Friday. But yeah, battery safety, keep an eye on it. It's something that, if you're a consumer looking to have solar panels fitted on your home, really consider fire safety. If you're talking to an installer, ask them about fire safety. Ask them what they're going to do to minimise the risk in your property. If they are looking at a string inverter, again, make sure what they're doing to look at fire safety. But if you're a commercial client, again, you really need to be speaking to your insurance company and finding out what their requirements are. Thanks for tuning in for this week's Eco Talk Rewired news section. Follow, like, subscribe for more exciting content from us, the industry, solar, battery storage, all things eco. I'll see you next week for another exciting episode.